think it did the thingy.
Hello to all you patriots out there in podcast land, and welcome to episode 366 of Canadian Patriot Podcast, the number one live podcast in the Gulag. We're recording on September 26, 2022.
We need your help to support the Canadian Patriot Podcast. Visit patreon.com/CPP and become a Patreon. You can get a better quality version of the show for just $1 per episode. Show you're not a communist, buy a CPP t-shirt for just $24.99 plus shipping and theft. Visit CanadianPatriotPodcast.com homepage and follow the link on the right.
This takes us to my favorite segment. It's called What Are We Drinking? And one item that you've completed on the Patriot Challenge reasonably recently. Liz is not here this evening, so we will start with Pierre. Pierre, what are you drinking?
I am currently drinking whiskey, as per usual, and a Patriot Challenge that I completed. So this one I actually did 2 weeks ago, but I didn't mention it last week. Me and one of my employees, we went to the Montreal market to do a bunch of preventative maintenance stuff. And it was just kind of nice to get out with someone that I work with often. And I'm not directly his boss / supervisor, but I am. So it was just kind of nice to be like, okay, you know, we met up, we went to a store, and it was just kind of nice to like completely spank them. As in, like, you know, I did 3 oil changes.
We know
yeah,
what
like
spanking is, yeah.
Yeah, but like, you know, I did 3 oil changes, greased all the machines, you know, did all the checking before he was done 1 oil change. And I mean, like, all my tools were away, all my shit was picked up, everything was away, and I'm like, are you fucking done? Like, I'm ready to go. So it was kind of nice to get back at that and, you know, go back into that routine and everything. And just, you know, it was nice to say, like, you know, when I say, hey, what's taking so long and get the fuck to work, it was kind of nice to just show that I'm not just the person that says that, but was able to do it. So it was kind of fun.
That's good.
Can I interject one oil change story?
What?
Can I interject one oil change story?
Yes.
Sure.
Buddy works at a heavy duty mechanic shop. Shout out to Dave, not him. And they hired a guy
named Dave and heavy mechanics.
Yeah. Well, this guy's name wasn't Dave, but anyway. They hired a guy who said he had experience. And they're like, okay, well, he's still pretty new. So they got him to do an oil change on one of the big trucks, whatever it was. And comes in and is like, do we have any more oil? What do you mean? It was like half a drum. Well, yeah, but it's not quite full yet. What are you talking about? He filled it to the top until he could see the oil.
I thought he worked at a shop.
I'm not an expert, but I don't think that that's how you do that.
Yeah.
That is not how you do that.
Unless it's vastly different than every vehicle I've ever owned and all of my small engine stuff. I don't think that that's how you do that.
Yeah, that's probably, I mean, that's one way to get your oil pressure up real quick, I guess.
Yeah.
Luckily, they didn't turn the vehicle on.
In most cases, thankfully, vehicles don't start when that happens. Because, like, yeah, I've seen that too, right? Where like, even what I do, like, we have those like preset factory settings, like oil change, even though we've already done it, and like you can't reset it, it flashes for a few hours. So some guys like, yeah, you know, like, come fix your fucking machine. I put like 9 liters in it and it still won't start. I'm like, this machine takes less than 2 liters of oil. Like, how did you put 9 in there? And like, it's oozing out of every orifice. I was like, thank God you didn't start it. You know, I'm like, oh fuck. Yeah, it's
Anyway.
Every time you think you've seen everything, I meet a customer.
Oh boy. Pierre, anything else for you that rounds? Oh, good. Talking all over Pierre. He had the same thought as me.
Yeah.
Who did you ask, me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I've had an interesting week. So what am I drinking this evening is water. And then that kind of goes along with some of the Patriot Challenge stuff. So on top of my regularly drinking water and my reading, one thing to improve my fighting position, I've had to start taking a little bit better care of myself this week. Andrew already knows, but the rest of you don't. I had a blood clot the other day. Naturally, not from the clot shot, so at least I can say that I earned it. Apparently, if you work a trade show and then don't do anything for 2 or 3 days, apparently that's not good for you. So eating healthy again, back on my diet, doing all the things that I should be doing. So fun times. So I will be drinking water for a few months because they got me on the old blood thinners. Apparently my toxic masculinity built up to such severe levels that they needed to thin it out.
I'm just happy that our healthcare system didn't fail, and they figured it out.
That could be a whole other. We should revisit this healthcare system now that I've got some more recent insight into how our system works. Yeah, fun times.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, right? Like it wasn't. Yeah, but
Works is a way you could describe it.
Yes.
Technically, you obtained blood thinners, so I suppose.
Yeah, it worked. Eventually.
I mean, we also agreed that you probably needed that prior to seeing a medical professional based on your symptoms. So
yeah.
We are at least as good at this as the actual physicians.
Yeah. I'm just not capable of writing the script. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well. Peter, what about yourself?
I am drinking water. And Patriot Challenge this week, we started training for the 24 Hours of Heroes Challenge. That's happening on November 13th, 12th and 13th. And the challenge we're doing is a mile run, 100 burpees, 200 push-ups, 300 crunches, and 400 mountain climbers, and a mile run. So we switched from the
sounds
Murph
awful.
That was too easy. Also, this is supporting Wounded Warriors, so they seem like an okay organization from the vets that I've talked to. So not perfect.
That's Wounded Warriors Canada, right?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Because there's a similarly named organization that is not as reputable.
Yeah.
Well, and that's part of the reason we made the switch was because like we can actually do this in support of Canadian veterans, as opposed to just doing a Murph, which is a very American thing. They have, if you go on their website, 24 Hours for Heroes, they have, I believe it's 8 different workouts you can choose from, and then sign up and raise money and then do those on the date. They have different time slots and stuff, but that doesn't really matter. So yeah, that's what we're working up towards. And then I went and cut a whole bunch of firewood to improve my life yesterday. So that was good. Also, I'm super tired, unrelated.
I feel like that could be related. I did drop a link there in the show notes for 24 Hours for Heroes so people can find that because the website is 24 Hours for Heroes. 24 Hours of Heroes, pardon me, not for. 24 Hours of Heroes.
All right. Stand correct.
So I dropped a link there in the show notes.
Nice.
How about you, Andrew?
I'm drinking a quart of Bombay gin.
Are you sure it's not whiskey?
I'm drinking a quart of Bombay whiskey. Actually, Bombay whiskey sounds way better than Bombay gin, but like I'm imagining a bottle is like a
Bombay is a rum name. That's what it should be. It sounds like a rum name.
100% Bombay is gin, but in any event, I can think of like.
But he's just saying in reference, for the name, it would be a good whiskey.
Yeah.
Or a good rum.
Yeah.
But it would be like Bombay, not one word like the city.
Right.
That's what I'm thinking. Like, if I had a distillery, I would sell Bombay whiskey, and it would have a bottle, or the bottle art would be like a picture of like a, like a strata fortress or something. I'm not drinking gin. Fuck gin. I'm drinking Braise de Lac. Bruce de Lac? I don't know. It's French. It's a Pilsner. There's a pretty blonde on the can.
Bris
There
du
you go.
lac, is that when they give you a bris inside of a lake?
I don't know.
I would say
I
we
don't know
could
what
ask
those are.
Benny, but he's not on the show right now.
In terms of improving my fighting position, I've at least been on the reading train lately, getting my water, getting my reading. I need to work out more. I worked out today for the first time in a while, a couple of weeks, I think. It sucked. Everything hurt. So now I'm sitting here feeling bad about myself and drinking.
Yeah.
Yeah, that normally happens.
I mean, if you really want to do the workout thing, you can do the whole 75 hard thing with me.
You already started that though, so I'd be behind. That'd be no good.
I've had to like wait until I can walk without my leg hurting, but it seems to be almost at that point. So I will be starting a little slow, but starting shortly.
Oh
But
boy,
don't feel like you have to,
are we
because
gonna?
that's
Are we gonna?
75 days of you being sober. I don't know if you're ready for that or the world is ready for that.
I'm not
I
sure
don't
if
know
the
if the
podcast
government's
could
ready
handle
for
that.
that. It's either going to be really bad or really good.
Yeah.
I feel like there's not
Probably
a
a
lot of
little
middle
bit of
ground.
column A and a little bit of column B, I'd say.
I don't know. Maybe Gavin and I need to have an executive level discussion. I feel like we may be gingerly placing the challenge gauntlet before various
Ooh.
other Canadian podcasters.
So wait, what
I
is
mean-
this? What's this challenge?
Well, I mean, life is a contest. And if
Yeah.
Gavin wants to do 75 hard,
What is
I
that?
feel like we may need to invite some of our frenemies to participate.
The gist of it is you got to do 2 45-minute workouts a day. One of them has to be outside. Read 10 pages of a self-help book. No alcohol. And there was something else on there, isn't there? Or three or a gallon of water, so like 4 liters of water a day, something like that.
I feel like
That's
it's
just
4 things.
unnecessary.
It's read,
Yeah.
water, workout, and I think you have to take a selfie.
Oh, and you got to do that, but yeah,
I'm out.
there's no
No
booze.
selfies.
Yeah, no drinking.
Yeah,
A selfie a day. The workouts, the water, the reading. Yeah.
I just don't
I
have that
don't
much
know.
time to work out every day. Like I literally do not have the time.
You already do
Not
a physical
bad,
job,
too.
though. I feel
can
like
do
that
one.
should.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, right? Like, yeah, if you do a physical job, like, there's part of that.
Well, a physical job with
Consist of
long
it.
days and
Yeah.
3 kids.
I mean, I guess it depends on what you're doing, but like also probably not. And also if you miss any one of those things, you have to restart the whole thing.
I like the 75 days sober and stuff. I can get behind that.
I'm not a fan.
I can handle it.
I drink
Yeah.
coffee and beer for the same reason. It's for the benefit of those around me.
I can probably
Yeah.
do like the 75-minute thing. Like, I sleep quite often.
75 minutes leaves a lot of time for cuddling.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
like a lot. Like a whole
Shall we
73
do-
minutes, yeah.
Shall we do some
Yeah.
book club?
Yeah.
Yes.
Because I got like 10 minutes.
All right. Perfect. So in the 10 minutes before Peter departs, we got sidetracked. This month's book, because it is the last Monday of the month, and on the last Monday of the month, we do book club like we've been doing for the last 2 years.
Yeah. Over 2 years.
We're getting
I
up
think,
there for
but
book
yeah.
club.
We're almost 3.
Well,
So for
That's awesome.
September, our month is Alexander Solzhenitsyn's One Day in the Life of Ivan Denisovich.
Well, for
It's
September,
very-
our month is September. The book is A Day in the Life. I haven't read so.
What did I say? The book was September?
He said that for September, the month is the book.
Yeah,
Yes.
well, I mean, you rearrange the
Sorry.
words in the order that suits you best based on the grammar and syntax of your
Some-
preferred version of English.
yeah.
Some people are dyslexic in reading, and Andrew is just like dyslexic in talking.
That's fine. I knew what I meant.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we did too. I just brought it up for once. My bad.
That's okay. In the 8 minutes that Peter has left, No, I enjoyed this. I'm not a big Russian literature guy, but this was really good, and the English translation I thought was pretty spectacular.
Yeah.
I don't know
Yeah,
if I
pretty
would
good.
class it as an easy read. There are certainly some things that are difficult to approach as a casual reader. Some of the slang and Russian isms, some of the
Yep.
some of the terminology, I think was a little bit not off-putting, but a bit of a learning curve. It'd be nice if there was a little appendix that explained a few things.
Yeah.
But the English translation, I think, does a pretty fantastic job of making it readable for the English reader.
Yeah, yeah. There's a little things where like they'll use like the Russian, like when they were talking about their boots and stuff like that, they would use like the Russian word for it. And if you didn't know what that meant, you're like, what the fuck are these people talking about?
Yeah, there's a couple of slang things. I
Yeah.
think some of it might not even be like terribly Russian. It might just be like prison slang.
Yeah. Which I mean, I'm sure is just regular Russian now because almost everyone was in Gulag at some point in time.
Everyone goes to Gulag.
Yeah.
Before Peter departs, though, I would like to ask him the chapters on bricklaying.
Yes.
I thoroughly enjoyed this.
Were they realistic? Would you
Yeah,
lay bricks
I
like
was-
that?
I was impressed. They do things a little bit differently than kind of our conventional style for our commercial work, but only in the sense that it didn't sound like they used levels; they just used plumb lines, which is fine. That's just different than what we do. We don't often use lines unless you're working on something that's not plumb.
Yeah, but you
but
also
other than
learned.
that, like the way that he described like the scaffolding and how like the making of the mortar and the work, like having to have like 3 or 4 guys down at the bottom making the mortar and getting all the mortar and the blocks up to the bricklayers, and having a tender there feeding blocks to the bricklayers. It was very well done. I was impressed. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I was like, this is my work. Like other than I get to go home to my family at the end of every day, it was like, oh, this is a day in the life of me.
Yeah, aside from the nearly freezing to death and
Yeah.
the not having food and the
Well, the
serving
nearly freezing to death,
overseers.
the nearly freezing to death in commercial is, I mean, we're obviously much better dressed, but we definitely work in those conditions sometimes where you just kind of have to, because the bottom of the hoarding is not warm. The top is, but not the bottom. So everything freezes. But it's fine.
So do you
Yeah, no,
hide your
I-
favorite trowel at the end of the day as well?
Yes, in my tool bag. I don't have to specifically go find a spot on the job site.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
I enjoyed that because every bricklayer knows that, like, if 2 guys are using the same mortar board and the guy sets his trowel down, you set your trowel down, do something else, you grab his, you immediately notice in your hand that you have the wrong trowel. Like,
Yeah,
it's within 10 seconds, you're like, what the hell is this shitty piece of metal? And you throw it down the scaffold at the other guy and you grab yours and you get back to work. It feels totally different, even though they're
Pretty much
literally the same.
identical.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
everybody is
Yeah,
worn a
that's-
little differently, and everybody's hand is a little different, and it's just
Yeah, that's just a tool thing in general, I find.
yeah. But especially something
Yeah.
like this, where like you're constantly using the edges of your trowel, and it's so you really get like it's not like a hammer where you're just used to hitting stuff with it. You're using the business end, and that's it. So like this, like
Yeah.
you know every nick and blemish in your trowel, and you just know that it's there. And when you're spreading one or something, whatever, like it's hard to explain, but like you know the edges of it so well from constantly using them that I totally understand the having a favorite trowel thing, going and hiding it away. Like I
Well,
would
that
do
night
the same
here, if you
thing.
put your hands on someone else's tool, that's how you get the monkeypox.
Depends where their tool has been.
Or where you put it to them.
Yeah.
No,
Which
we
orifice?
should not.
No, I would highly recommend you don't put tools in orifices.
I mean, yeah, you shouldn't.
No, you shouldn't.
Right.
But
Peter,
yeah,
other
no, the bricklaying was good. I enjoyed that part. I also I thought the book was well done. I agree. There's a bit of a slang thing that was mildly annoying at times, but it was only like I wish I knew what he was saying and I could go and look up what that means.
But way better than Clockwork Orange and their
Heck
bizarre
yeah.
slang.
oh, you know,
jeez.
like
No,
100% better than
question. No
Yeah.
question.
Oh,
Yes, at least it was like every once in a while. It'd be like once or twice a chapter as opposed to 17 times a sentence.
Yeah.
I
Thanks for
think
that.
my own lack of Russian knowledge, I think, being the limiting factor on this. Like when they're talking about people's numbers, so every convict in Gulag has a Cyrillic letter and a 3-digit number on their clothing, and I don't know how to say some of those letters. So when I was reading the book, I was like, "Oh yeah, something 103."
Yeah.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
well, you had
Yeah.
a different edition than me because I did not have that.
I did. They had, so it wasn't actually in Cyrillic. It was like they substituted English letters for what I'm sure is the Cyrillic sound, but I
Yeah.
still don't know how to read it, so I'm no further along.
Yeah.
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 What's the interesting thing about that whole number thing while you're talking about it is how, like, they kind of had this thing where, like, they were responsible for keeping their numbers legible. So there were, like, prison artists that would, like, hand paint the numbers onto their
Yeah.
uniforms and touch them up for them. But, like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
nobody wanted fresh numbers because then you stood out, but you also couldn't have ones that were, like, illegible because then you also stood out. So it was just like
And you
this
get thrown in
weird
the
dance of like, gotta get
Yeah.
them looking good, but not too good.
Yeah.
You know, weird things
You
that
know,
we
it's
don't have to
pretty
deal with in everyday life.
Yeah. One other thing I enjoyed about the book, I've only got a few minutes, so I'm just gonna talk for a second. The way that Solzhenitsyn described like how happy guys were to get, you know, a little extra warmth or a little extra food, and like, you know, how that was like the goal every day, right? Was you
Oh, yeah.
try and, you know, get a reward or swindle out an extra bowl of food from the cook by whatever means necessary, and that was the highlight. That was kind of the goal all the time. I kind of see, like, I totally understand that, because I think that when you're in that type of mindset, then there is no other real thing that would happen. And an interesting corollary would be like how, with the lockdowns and stuff that we dealt with the last couple of years, how people were so happy to be able to like go outside and see friends and stuff. And it's like we don't understand sometimes how much we take things for granted. And we also, the psychology of it, we also, looking back, can understand how when things are taken away from you and you give a little bit back, like as the government giving a little bit back, how much people grasp onto that. The boiling rat, or the drowning rat experiment is a really good dichotomy of this, because it's I can't remember who did it, but if you throw a rat in a pool, it'll drown within 15 minutes. It'll struggle for a bit, give up, and die. But if you throw a rat into a pool, wait till it's just about to give up, pull it out, dry it off, and throw it back in, it'll struggle for like 6 hours or whatever the number was, because it's that hope. And so that was, I think that relates a little bit, but
No, I agree, and that's a
I'm not
really
interested.
weird study. I've read up on that one too. And people
Yeah.
did the weirdest, like, most sadistic studies back in the day.
How the
Like that
fuck
would
do I
never
get paid for this shit?
that would never be allowed
Like-
now. But yeah,
I
it,
probably could have gotten. I could probably do it for the half the price of what they paid for them to do that.
what are you
Or rat
talking about?
fucking
People
pool.
still do studies like that. Fauci just stuffed a bunch of beagles' faces into a box and allowed bugs to eat them alive. That was not that long ago.
No.
Yeah, but politicians get away with doing anything. Regular,
He's not a
ordinary people.
politician.
Yeah.
I reject
Mm.
Yeah, that's up for debate.
Feel
Yeah.
like we play a semantics game at that point, but
That's
Yeah.
fair, but I reject the notion because then we're
Fair.
giving credence to the idea that you can be a politician without being elected.
Fair.
I
Yeah.
mean, when 26% of the
Senate.
population votes for you and you become the prime minister,
Yeah.
Well, look at the fucking Senate. Nobody voted anybody in the Senate.
Yeah, I don't like the way that's set up for us, but whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
When did I'm like that?
the way that the
Look at the
people
Governor
in the book
General.
would sort of do the little swindles and stuff like that to get food, I found really interesting because it's that hustle, right? And just like
Yeah.
the hustle and the relationships, because everything seems to
Yeah.
be like who owes who a favor and how much have you offended that person or upset somebody in
Yeah.
another office is like
yeah.
there's somebody in an office that gives out the work assignments. So did your gang, your group of convicts, because they're divided up into I'm not sure exactly how big they were, about 10 people or so, 12 people.
Yeah.
10, 12.
Somewhere
yeah,
in there.
ish.
Well, it sounded like his was bigger, but they would get broken down into smaller. I think it was 22 or something, but then they would kind of have different jobs in the day.
So depending on how well the overseers liked you that day, depended on what work assignments you got, how well you did your work assignment depended on how much food you got, how much your gang's foreman cajoled to get different rates for the work that you were doing, depended on how much food you got. Like it was very, for being in Gulag and everyone being treated the same, comrade, there was a lot of individualism.
Political shit.
And every group had like a stool pigeon that would be like ratting on them as well, but like that person had some pull as well, so they kind of had to stay on their good side but also not like give them any information that can get them into trouble. And like
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's
I mean,
like
just
working
in
for a
the
giant
how the
company.
Gulag system is set up, I thought that in of itself was a very interesting, just outside of all of the other stuff, just the social interactions in how this type of jailing system would work was very interesting. And I mean, I maybe made some margin notes for in the future. Stay on people's good side, get bags of gifts to give out whatever fatback is. I have to figure out what fatback is so I can get a lot of it sent to me so I can distribute it.
and tobacco. Lots of
Tobacco,
tobacco.
the good tobacco, the Latvian tobacco.
Yeah, get good at hiding stuff in your mattress.
Yeah. And hide your
or
favorite.
other random holes.
Yeah.
Or
But-
learn stitching, because then you can throw stuff on the inside of your coat, but you leave a few loose stitches. Learn how to make slippers out of rags that they supply you. They give you everything, but it catches you an extra in for when someone takes your boots to a whole other place to warm up.
And so that was what the boot thing was a bizarre, like you were only allowed to have either like slippers or boots. You couldn't have both. So you would have to like trade one in for the other, but like you couldn't do that like all the time. It was just like
but they had summer slippers, I guess you could say, and then winter boots.
Yeah.
So in the winter, there was a guy, like I don't remember which character or which person in this book or whatever, but yeah, he would make slippers. So like you could wear them,
but you couldn't
like
get
there were
caught with them.
certain scenarios where like if you got caught with them, they'd take them away.
But if you had a good pair of winter boots that didn't have too many holes, or at least the holes were repaired well, you didn't want to turn them in come summertime because you weren't guaranteed to get that same pair back come next winter. And if you're a bricklayer, you maybe wanted to have a nice pair of boots because you'd be out there, freezing to death while you're laying brick.
Unless you were in the spot where the stove was, so that the motor didn't freeze.
Yeah.
That sounded like the only cushy job.
I mean, all in all, like aside from all of the horrible things that happened in Gulag, it kind of also sounded like a good time.
Yeah, I mean, the whole
Sounded like
getting
a
up
bunch
at
of dudes
5
shooting the shit.
a.m. and going and standing outside in -30 and getting counted multiple times and getting 100 grams of bread for breakfast.
Yeah.
Aside from all of those things, I mean, yeah,
But I mean, that's
sounds.
the interesting thing about it, though, is that despite the horrible conditions these people had to face, like they were still, I don't want to say happy, but like had moments of joy, if you will.
When I think the like Denisovich character particularly, because it's really written about his perspective. It's kind of
Yeah.
it's not really first person, but it's kind of first person.
Yeah.
It's really very heavily focused on his interactions with everyone else. Having him looking for the small things that made him happy throughout his very not happy day, of which he's on a 10-year bit, mind you. So this is one day out of 10 years that he's going to be doing more or less the exact same thing in Gulag.
Yeah.
He scrounged extra lunch. He got a little piece of metal back into camp that he's going to make a knife out of so that he can make more slippers. Slippers seem to be an ongoing thing. Standing in line in the mail room, he somehow managed to get himself a bite of somebody's sausage.
Yeah.
Mm.
Not
He's doing all these little
anything else. Yeah.
Well, but doing all these little extra odd jobs, he's managed to pick up several hundred grams of extra food through the day.
Yeah.
He is in one of the more desirable skilled trade positions, which he apparently landed at by like bluffing his way into.
Yeah, I think he was a carpenter or something first.
Yeah, it says he was a carpenter, and then they were looking for a mason, and he was like, well, I know how to do that. And he sort of just made it up as he went, which I'm not questioning your trade, Peter. I'm just saying if some guy can put his hand up and say he can do it, I mean.
But at the same time, I mean,
It's actually
you're
the other
also
way around.
talking Gulag standards where someone's actually paying you for it. Probably
Well,
do
and
different
part of that
standards
is this is like 1950 Siberia, right? Like how good does the masonry work really need to be? Like good enough that the commissar doesn't shoot you, good enough that you don't get like extra time in the hole.
Yep.
But not so good that like you couldn't possibly escape later if you needed to. Like,
well, that's kind of like they're doing the minimum, but they're doing it's not really the minimum. It's a very strange way that they've gone about approaching their work. Like they're not given wood for their fire. They have a stove in their hut, in their barracks, but they get some like janky coal dust or something. It's not even like good coal. It's like remnants of coal.
Well, that or like for the fires in their cellar or whatever in the evening, they like pick up sticks in the yard, but like you can't have too many sticks because then you're going to get frisked.
Yeah, but you also got to give up a
away.
bunch of the sticks for the guards so they can keep warm.
Yeah,
right.
So everybody has to bring some.
So nobody's given wood for anything, or the
well,
wood
nobody
ration
being
is
given
very
wood.
Small.
But then we end up in a situation where like,
I'm out.
All right, bye, Peter.
All right, bye,
See you
Peter.
guys.
You end up in a situation where like the scaffolding only has one board on it because we've stolen the rest of it to burn.
Yeah.
Which doesn't seem like a good, but like also we still have this one piece and it works just fine as long as everybody's careful and doesn't do anything too quickly or too dangerous. Like it works fine.
Yeah. No drinking the toilet wine while you're on the scaffolding that's only 2 inches wide. Like, yeah.
So, so another thing, now that we're talking about whatever the scenarios are, am I the only one that felt like this gulag was like literally right next to a town where like people worked for money on like different shifts in them?
No, that was 100% what was going on. So this is forced labor building a town.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So like they built gulag and then they used prison labor from gulag to build town. Yeah. They also had free labor, like regular people that were there to do like government jobs. So you had the prisoners in gulag, you had the guards at the gulag, you had all the administrative camp staff at the gulag, and then you had like, I don't know what the right term is, free workers. You had normal employees that were there to do other work around because they were building a town in Siberia for some reason because Soviet Russia.
They like to build in cold places.
Yeah. But yeah, no, it was I didn't mind the book. I found it was a fairly decent book. Not too complicated read, which is good.
No, I thought it was good. Words. I thought a lot of the things that they were trying to plan and a lot of the things they were trying to do well enough that it didn't cause them problems was interesting, because I think it's very much of how to get by in prison. And I don't know if this is a good reflection of like a North American style prison, but like in Soviet Russia, prison builds you or something.
Yeah.
You mean, so how to appear indoctrinated enough so that you can avoid further indoctrination camps?
Yes. Yes, that is one of the things. I mean, how to be a good enough Soviet to not be the guy that ends up in trouble every day, but not be such a good Soviet as that you end up being the guy that like snitches on all of your comrades every day.
Or is suspicious because you are too good of a Soviet.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I really liked it. I mean, I got through it fairly quickly. I mean, and comparing it to like Gulag Archipelago, which is much longer and way more in depth, which I did also find interesting, and I still need to finish the other 2 volumes of it.
No.
This in a much shorter package gives you sort of a full flavor of what it was like for these people there. You know, and just the bizarre things that they had to cope with in a day-to-day life. Because I mean, it's prison, but like it's prison to the extreme, because it's Gulag and it's in Russia and it's cold as balls.
Well, and it's also like they talked about that at one point. Denisovich's character had been in a different prison before that, and then he got a 10-year bit to go to like the political prisoner prison, just to go to Gulag for doing un-Soviet things.
Yeah, which what was it, like a Section 58 or something like that is what they would give to political prisoners in Russia, something like that. I'd have to look at the number, but like that was probably one of like the most common charges.
Well, that's you go to Gulag,
And,
you go to Gulag, everybody goes to Gulag.
Or you'd go for something else, but like it wouldn't be true at all. But like, and everyone knew it wasn't true, but that didn't matter. Like,
Yeah.
Because if it wasn't that, it would be something else.
What I think I mean, there's a lot of commentary in that about Russia in the 50s under Stalin. I think Peter made a good point though. There's a lot of parallels to this with modern COVID stuff. Well, if you just do the thing, if you just go along with the program, if you just,
if you just get one more jab and
just one more,
stop doing the un-Soviet thing.
Yeah. Do it for Mother Canada.
Yes.
One, everyone going to Gulag and everyone getting treated equally poorly, but some people being more equal than others.
Yeah.
You managed to snag a cushy job working in like administration or being the hospital orderly. You're working, but you're not really working. Or if you're one of the many laborers that were not providing laborers, if you're one of the cook's assistants, because apparently the cook needs many assistants, so you managed to get a cushy job inside next to a gas stove, and for your trouble you get extra servings of food. Well, that seems like a really
you can skimp a half spoonful from everybody you serve and nobody would fucking bat an eyelash at it, right? Like,
and at least you would know what goes into the thing before you eat it, because I'm sure some of those meals
might not
were
be
pretty
a
suspect.
better option. That might not be a better option though.
It sounds like the food was really suspect. And I mean, like, so you get your like weird stew in the morning, you get your weird skilly stew thing in the evening.
Was skilly in the evening or in the morning?
Evening, I think the thin one in the evening was what he was complaining about. It's like a porridge or something in the morning.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I was like, I think of porridge or oatmeal in the morning with like a little chunk of bread.
Yeah. So that was weird because they don't give you like huge, but none of them were big meals by any stretch, because it's all measured out in grams.
Yeah.
But it was also, I thought it was also interesting. I wouldn't have expected that political prisoners would have got like care packages from their families. So everybody along the whole chain gets a piece of the care package, but I'm surprised that they were being sent stuff at all, because that seems like
because
another one of those
Well, no, I was just shocked that he actually got that much. Right, like it
the
sounded
fella at the
during-
end. Yes.
Yeah, so during the whole book, right, it sounded like, if anybody sent you anything, you barely get anything. But like towards the end of the book, what was it? Sar? Is it Sar that got it?
Yes, Sar
Pretty sure.
Markovich.
Yeah. So yeah, he got like what, smoked fish. He got a bunch of cigarettes, tobacco, sausage, like a whole bunch of stuff. But then like he goes into this huge thing where it's like, well, I got to put all this stuff in this room, so I got to get him a few cigarettes, or or some of the food, depending. But then you also got to grease the person's hand that gave you the package, because if not, then your other package will go missing for a little bit, where some of the stuff might get rotten. But you also got to give stuff to the barber, because he's gonna shave your face. So, and he'll be like, I don't know, cleaner or better about it. So like, yeah, like he had to grease like 15 people's hands just to enjoy his package and hopefully get another one. But yeah, it was kind of, I don't know, it was weird. Funny, but still.
It was. I'm so close to being in the right section of the book. I have a note for that one, but I can't find the right section where it had all of the things that he got, because he ended up getting quite a lot. It was bread and butter and sausage and sugar, and not like an inconsequential amount either. It was like 2 kilos of sugar or something.
Yeah, how do you hide that?
Towards the end of the last, or the beginning of the last chapter is where I remember it.
No, you're right. It is in the last or second to last chapter. I just don't see the note that I had about the actual contents of the package, which I thought I had, but that's okay. It was more that like everybody along the whole way, the mailroom clerk, the guy that goes into the storeroom that's responsible, because you're not allowed to have your like personal items in your bunk. So it all has to go into the storeroom. So the storeroom clerk gets a piece.
Yeah.
Like Pierre mentioned, all these other people all throughout the camp get a piece. Your foreman gets a piece. Your barber gets a piece. So it was, I thought it was pretty amazing that like he ended up getting a substantial amount of stuff, and actually ended up, Sar ended up getting to actually consume most of it.
Yeah.
And the other thing is like the rampant theft. Anything that's left out is basically up for grabs, and it's all common communal living space. It's just barracks halls with
7
with
bunks
bunk beds.
to a room.
7 bunks to a room, yeah. So it's all just open communal space with bunk beds. So anything that gets left out is getting swiped immediately.
Yeah.
And putting your felt boots on your room's heater, and other people coming by and like trying to rearrange your boots and getting yelled at from the bunks because like those are not your boots, leave them alone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because your boots only get to go to the drying room every 3rd day, which felt boots in snow seems like a not great.
Yeah.
I don't know. In Soviet Russia, boots are weird.
Yeah. I mean,
footwear's a whole big component of this show.
I've had felt liners like inside my boots, like a good pair of Sorels have like a nylon shell, and then felt liners, and like, after a day of walking around, like your foot sweat like makes them a little damp and everything, and like you got to pull them out to dry them. I couldn't imagine like just felt boots. Like you need to dry those constantly. Like these people must have had like, I don't know, all kinds of crazy foot problems and stuff like that from walking around with damp feet everywhere.
Yeah, or you need to like seal the shit out of them with like some kind of wax, right? Or like
it was a little weird.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know if we screwed that up or if Chris is just correcting something. Was like off the cuff there. Gulags not being a Soviet invention, they existed since the 1800s. Soviets just improved them. Interesting.
Yeah, well, maybe improved is the wrong word, but they made them more gulag-like. How's that?
Yeah, I mean, they've had work camps probably a lot more, way before the 1800s, but
I continue to encourage Chris that he should just come on the show and heckle live rather than having the many seconds delay on YouTube and hoping I can read his comment.
Yeah, because that one's been up there for a little bit.
Well,
Yeah.
I wasn't looking. I was busy flipping through my copy of the book, making those good crisp book noises into the microphone.
Yeah, but also while Chris is watching, kudos to you and your latest shirt. I saw the picture and it was phenomenal.
Yeah, it was something. Shall we read some book?
Duh. That's how you say that. Right?
Shukov felt pleased with his life as he went to sleep. A lot of good things had happened that day. He hadn't been thrown in the hole. The gang hadn't been dragged off to, I'm a butcher, a place in Russia. Sotskadorgadok?
Place in Russia, yeah.
Place in Russia. He swiped the extra gruel at dinner time. The foreman had got a good rate for the job. He'd enjoyed working on the wall. He hadn't been caught with the blade at the search point. He earned a bit from Tessar that evening. He bought his tobacco, and he hadn't taken sick. He'd got over it. The end of an unclouded day, almost a happy one. Just one of the 3,653 days of his sentence from bell to bell. The 3 extra were for leap years.
Yeah.
I mean, like, it ends on a very positive note. That is the very end of the book. Which, I mean, like, I guess spoiler, but also we're doing book club. You should expect spoilers. The 1 paragraph recap of his day of all of the things that they had managed to get done. Not going into solitary, which he could have done several times. And also he carries around, I shouldn't say carries, he conceals about his sleeping area a knife, which will get him 10 days in the hole if it gets caught. So just the fact that he keeps a knife around, like that in of itself, if it gets caught during a random bed search, will get him 10 days in the hole. Plus any of the other things he had done throughout the day that could have landed him in the hole.
Yeah, there were a few other things. And
there was a couple of 3 other things. Extra gruel. He says at dinner time. He also got his extra bread at dinner time, but they'd also got an extra lunch because the good rate stuff with the foreman. So the part of the foreman, who was also a convict's job, is to negotiate the labor with the camp administration. The labor basically turns into how much they're going to feed them. Are you getting wheelbarrow rate or hand barrow rate for your work?
yeah.
You getting 100 grams or are you getting 200 grams of bread?
Makes a difference.
Yeah.
It does. So, I mean, it's very, very relationship heavy. I think we talked about most of the other ones. Oh, he had gotten his tobacco. That was another big one. Some of the prisoners were able to bring in tobacco in their care packages and were reselling it. And it gets sold at a very strange rate compared to like the rest of Russia at the time. So it's a ruble for a thimble full of tobacco. But I think elsewhere they were saying it was like 3 or 4 rubles worth.
Yeah.
Also, the fact that they were trading in rubles when they have no rubles. So it was very weird how they were like trading tobacco for cash money.
Yeah, because you weren't allowed to have cash if someone, like if you got a care package, with cash in it, they would just put it towards like your commissary. Right? Like, hey, you have $50.
That was not in the Gulag prison. That was in the regular prison where they were putting it into your commissary account.
No, I thought it was towards the end of the book. They said that.
It was. He was talking about his experience in Ust-Ishvek or whatever the previous prison camp was that he was in.
Was it? I thought it was this one.
Yeah.
I might have missed.
No, because in Gulag, in political prison, no cash.
Yeah, but because they would have to put stuff aside because they had to pay for their own toothpaste and everything anyways during this in the Gulag, did they?
Maybe I'm misremembering that part, but yeah, it's in the last chapter there. They were talking about how the currency thing worked. And I thought it was very strange that people were getting their their tobacco shipped in their care packages and then reselling it for like a quarter of its value.
But I mean,
But hey,
when
he
you
got some
when you can't
tobacco
go
from
to
some Latvians.
but when you can't go to store, a ruble's better than nothing. A ruble could be
I
everything, you know.
suppose.
But
Well, it
that
seems
could
like.
grease one of the guards' pockets.
Well, I think that's one of those things, though. Is this is a collection of very small. Like in the course of in your day or mine, whether or not we got our thimble full of tobacco would not really be a big concern. Because if I wanted to go buy a bunch of tobacco, I would just go do it.
Yeah.
But I also wasn't working
Like a
in
bushel?
-30 in my felt boots with like overseers there checking up on me and my gang foreman trying to negotiate wheelbarrow versus hand barrel rate for my lunch.
Yeah.
But it very much is a small victories type of thing throughout the course of his day. And it is, I mean, it's not quite what I expected. It really is just one day. And he gets a lot through his book. Like the writing is well done. I can't imagine doing that for 10 years though.
Yeah, that would be.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we're about 4 years into his bit when we did the one day.
Yeah.
Well, that, like,
and it just sounded like it was his all day, every day.
Well, and chances
Like, at
are
the
he
end of
would have ended up having to do more than 10 years because that kind of seemed to like everyone started with like a 2-year sentence and then it was a 5-year and then a 10-year and then they were just like 25 years for anything at all. And the people that were sort of supposed to be close to the end of their sentences would just magically have extra time tacked on.
Well, it didn't sound like he did though, because he said towards the end, at the end of the book, that he only did 3,300 and some odd days. You know, it was
Yeah,
one of
that's
those
10
3,000
years.
days. Yeah, and 3 extra days because of leap year. But yeah,
Three
no,
extra
but
days 'cause of leap.
yeah, because during the book, towards yeah, it did seem like just everybody would just get like 25 years, like sent to the
Yeah.
labor camps. But I don't know how he swindled to stay at the 10. I mean, maybe he didn't get caught buying
Some
tobacco or
people,
having rubles on him.
were lucky, but others like I guess they didn't bribe the right people.
Yeah.
So
All right. So get good boots, bribe the right cards, find somebody on the outside that can send me tobacco.
And
Yes.
and slightly fast here and there, and learn to deal with the cold.
Yeah, I think being able to just mentally put aside a lot of those hardships and just deal with it, I think is one of those things that they don't emphasize in the book, but is key to maintaining some semblance of sanity in these situations. It's like when you get turned out for the third count because the count is off.
yeah.
And everybody is standing in rank and file, and the
Yeah.
guards are counting again, and people are jostling and shoving and carrying on, and the count is off, and it's because I don't remember where the guy was from, Poland or Latvia or
Yeah.
Estonia or something, was sleeping near a furnace somewhere.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Well, that or
Yeah, he was on the top. He was in a
some-
warm spot, so he fell asleep. Yeah.
some fuckwit is just not standing in the right formation, because like that's also how they kind of would look at that and go, oh, this group of people looks right, this one looks right, wait a minute, there's like an extra person
Well, yeah.
on the back of the thing or whatever.
Line
Even if
up
the
by
count-
fives, right?
Yeah.
Or
You know,
same thing, going into the mess to get their dinner. Line up by fives in front of the mess, and the mess manager lets you in according to your work gang.
Yeah, but that's also like how they were able to pull some of these scams and stuff like that, because like not all of them would have an even grouping of 5, and it would be like it's 3 sets of 5 and then 2 or whatever at the end. And like,
Mhm.
you know,
Well,
so
and
they would-
I'm here, and so is getting mail in the mailroom, so I'm getting his meal for
Yeah.
him. So we still need our 22 meals, but there's only 18 people present, so we get the other 4 anyway.
yeah,
But we're not necessarily turning the other 4 over to the other 4.
yeah,
Yeah. Let's just hope you get a good meal. You get something out of
well,
that
yeah.
care
I mean,
package that you can bribe them.
Freezing your nuts off, and you have to like strip off and take all your layers off, including your illegal layers that you're not supposed to have, but somehow you've got, and then you got to recount like twice. Like, how did nobody get murdered? Right? Like,
Well, I think that was one of the things that they had mentioned is they started to get to at the day that we're at in the middle of the 1950s, whatever day this was supposed to be on. They had started to have people that were getting shivved at night and getting stabbed and murdered, and violence was being done. And I think some of that is probably the personal and political rivalries, and some of that is probably people just can't get along. Why can't you just stand there?
Cause me to strip more.
Yeah. Why can't you just stand there? We stand there every day. We stand there in the morning when we go to work. We stand there in the morning when we get to work. We stand there in the evening when we leave work. We stand there when we get back to camp when we're done work. Like, why can't you just stand in the queue like everyone else? Why do you have to be a problem? I say, like, you ever be in an enclosed space with somebody that has like different grooming habits than you're used to and you can't get along with them? Like, I don't like that you chew with your mouth open. Okay, but now I have to watch you chew with your mouth open every day for 10 years. Like, some people will not be impressed with that sort of behavior, right?
Yeah.
So it's being able to get into your own head and not worry so much about the people around you, even though you're living in uncomfortable, close quarters with those people. And trying to take all of those little small victories, that extra 100 grams of bread that you hid from breakfast to save for your dinner, which turned into you have a whole bunch of bread for tomorrow now because you're not going to eat it all today.
Yeah, and you put it in the hole in your mattress, which is full of
Well,
stuff.
I mean, some places, sometimes you just need to save your bread. That's
where else do you keep it?
no, I mean, it's not like, I don't know. Are you going to eat if you're used to getting whatever it is, 300 grams of bread a day, and they suddenly that was a 700 gram day? Are you just going to eat it? Because that's another one of the things that he talks about in there is your stomach is not your friend in this situation, because your stomach is always literally looking for its next meal. It doesn't care what you did for it yesterday. It's only concerned about the next thing.
Yeah.
So trying to keep that in check and working on very, very minimal rations.
And I think it was towards the end of the book where they were saying that if you got sent to the hole for 10 days, your health is down.
Oh, you could end up with lifelong health consequences. Like, you might get TB and never recover.
Yeah. And then if you went for 15 days, they're like, yeah, you're just going 6 feet under, like you're dead. Because it was so bad. They'd ration out your food and you wouldn't even get heat. Yeah, it's messed up.
Yeah, I forget what the rations were for when they said the whole, but it was like bread or something every day and then a hot meal every third day.
Yeah, so you got 100 grams of bread, and then you got that grisset, what they call them.
The skilly.
Skilly, yeah, you got skilly every 3 days, I think it was.
I think that was how it worked out. But I mean, could you imagine 100 grams of bread that's nothing.
Like nothing.
That's like a slice of bread.
Maybe.
Yeah. Maybe 2 if you're lucky. But yeah, it's not a lot of bread.
Then you slice it.
Yeah.
You're getting 2 pieces of Texas style. That's for sure.
Well, that's what I mean. Like, you're not getting a lot of bread. I can't think of what bread works out to in grams, because I'm used to measuring my bread in ounces, because that's how I recorded in my Fitness Pal. So a single slice of bread is about an ounce. So somebody has to do the conversion on that. I don't mean on the show right now, but I can't imagine, like, they do not have a lot of food going, and it didn't sound like it was particularly good food. And the dinner they were talking about, like, at their table amongst everybody in the gang that was eating dinner, they managed to get a potato, and it wasn't even a particularly good potato.
No, but it was just it was in the soup bowl. So 100 grams is 3.53 ounces.
Wow. So 3 whole slices of bread. That's 3.5 whole slices of bread. All right.
Yeah.
That sounds terrible.
I have more than that before I go to bed, and I slap some peanut butter on it.
I mean, I'm probably gonna do that shortly. Oh,
Yes.
Chris, you got to get on the show. Get on the show.
Yeah,
Chris
we already
is
got past
doing the
that.
math. We're well past that. But let's go around. Peter is not here anymore. If you want to go see Peter, you can see him at a gym somewhere working out.
Playing
It's
bricks.
The park. You go to the park to see him.
Well, okay, you go to the park. You can watch Peter. I don't know. There may or may not be short shorts. It's unclear. Why don't we go to Pierre? Pierre, where can everyone find you on the internet?
You can find me on Instagram. You gotta find it yourself though. Off the wall customizing at Gmail, Tickety Talk, Instagram, Facebook. Wife's posting some new stuff. There you go. And on Discord, but you gotta figure out who I am there too.
Right on. Gavin, where can everybody find you?
The best place to find me is Instagram, UrbexGTA.
If you've listened to the show this long, you deserve a discount code. If you're shopping at RagnarokTactical.ca, use the discount code Patriot at checkout. Save yourself some money. Literally take 100 grams of bread out of my child's mouth. Or whatever the conversion works out to with the discount code.
Yes.
Book club next month for October. Book club is going to be The Moon is a Harsh Mistress. We're doing another Robert Heinlein novel, which is great because Heinlein is one of my favorite fiction writers, so that'll be really good. It wasn't my suggestion, but really big fan. November, we're doing Rick Hillier's book, A Soldier First. I have to apologize to Rod Giltaka. We couldn't get Rod onto the show tonight. He did not do the reading homework, and as we know, the last Monday of the month is book club. So next week, tune in. We'll get Rod on. We'll talk about how beautiful BC is and what's going on with gun ban stuff. For all of our listeners out there in podcast land, I would like to remind you that you are a small fringe minority with unacceptable views.